I'm interested as well. There may not be policy yet or legislative decisions made
Mm.
about this for your party, obviously. But, like, for example, if you can give us some understanding of where you would have sat or would sit on things like the Treaty Principles Bill and the
Mm.
Regulatory Standards Bill, because
Yep.
those are a couple of things that are incredibly important to this audience.
Yeah. Yeah. So treaty principles bill, both of those we opposed. We made submissions on them. The treaty principles bill, the fact that it was predetermined legislation that was not well informed and nobody asked for, um, we don't think is even good law making process. And it undermines. We believe that undermines the bicultural nature of this, the foundations of this country. The regulatory standards bill we opposed and said, at best, it's a piece of legislation that is kind of meaningless, and at worst, it's prioritizing one particular ideology, i.e., private property rights over all else, which we don't think is good lawmaking. If the intention really is to improve our, regulatory making process, great. We think that laws should be made fairly and efficiently, but it doesn't seem like that was really ultimately the aim of that piece of legislation. So yeah, we were against both of those.
So, explain to me what you think the aim of that legislation was, if that's what it wasn't.
I think it was to prioritize private property rights, and I think there were other. I guess there were justifications around that, talking about the fact that that is what makes for efficient lawmaking. When that's not justified. I think it minimised the importance of the public good in us considering all legislation in the future.
So that also then bodes the question: what policies of this current government would you have signed on to? What would you be supporting? Because if you're centrist, you're going to
Yeah,
obviously
yeah,
that what means that it basically means you're supporting the Greens, Labor, and Te Pāti Māori and opposing that. So what would you,
yeah.
in this current group, what would you be like? Yep, I'm on board with this that this current
Mm.
government's doing.
I think there are components of the RMA reform and fast track that we agree with, that things need to be dealt with more efficiently. But our pushback on that would have been absolutely the environmental guardrails. It can't be at the expense of the environment. And it can't be done in a way that gives a few people kind of unnecessarily large amounts of decision-making power. So, I guess we would support in some ways, but have challenged and pushed them to take a little bit more care with that. I think we are quite aligned with Chris Bishop on housing density and the need to increase that. But I suppose, again, our pushback or challenge would have been, how can we do this in a way that is a bit more like, maybe a citizens' assembly on housing density would be quite a good thing, and get people. It's a genuine dilemma and a challenge for communities where you've got people that have been living there and used to having quiet streets and
Mm-hmm.
quiet neighborhoods, but then you've also got young families that want more amenities and better public transport and more cafes and restaurants to go out to, and those things tend to come with higher density, more affordable housing. So if we can get a 30-year-old mum who's thinking about her kids and a 65-year-old retiree in a room talking about what the best solution is, what's the right level of housing density to have the vibrancy and community, that could lead us to a better solution.
The picture you're painting of the mum with the pram and the cafes in the central, it does sound very middle class white New Zealand. I know what I like to hear from my political parties I'm thinking about, and I think my audience does. What about the vulnerable in society? What about the
Yeah.
people who aren't going to be able, oh, look, I've got 3 cafes in my neighborhood. Isn't life perfect now? But they're struggling to make ends meet, or they're on a benefit, or they're like, under this government, they're disabled and they're getting less money than they once were. They're the people that I want to hear about. And I haven't heard that
Yeah.
yet. Do you want to have an
Yeah.
opportunity to speak to that?
Yeah, totally. I mean, with regards to citizens' assemblies, I mean, the idea is that we represent fairly the demographics of society to that issue. So all of those voices need to be in the room. Otherwise, we're not designing a solution that will be enduring. I think with regard to those people who are really out there working hard and are struggling with the cost of living, the cost of groceries, of rent is increasing far faster than the increase in wages. That's really where our tax reset, those people will benefit the most from this tax reset package, which is the combination of the citizens' income, the land value tax, and the flat tax rate. If you are a low income earner and you don't own any property, that citizens' income will be an extra boost into your back pocket to help you afford.
It's akin to a UBI, but not quite a UBI. It's in that in that Venn diagram.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, so the kind of key difference is there is some tapering off in our citizens' income policy where the really high end don't receive it. Yeah. And I think combined with the land value tax, which is designed to bring house prices down, which will also make rents more affordable, potentially that puts home ownership maybe back into the realms for those really hardworking Kiwis that are struggling to get ahead.